Over the past 4 weeks, I found myself struggling with discipline more than ever before. Each day, I stayed up till 3 in the morning watching Netflix way later than I should have. I'd sleep for 8 to 9 hours till almost midday, then I'd snooze all the way until midday. After that, I'd watch Netflix in bed, struggling to get up only after a few hours. Then I proceeded to procrastinate starting work the rest of the day. Yay me! I'm self-employed, so I saw my income dry up and my bank balance run dangerously low. This had to stop. So I picked up a copy of Ryan Holiday's Discipline is Destiny to hopefully get me out of the rut that I've been in. And I'll be sharing with you the 5 things in this book that helped me go from being a completely unmotivated slug to, well, a relatively disciplined human being. Let's start with step 1. The brilliance of Thomas Edison was because he lived in his laboratory and never ever missed a day. Our modern conveniences owe far more to the compounding power of consistency and discipline rather than sheer brilliance. Basically, just show up. So I decided to try just that. I mainly write scripts for my work, so I told myself that I will, at the bare minimum, write just 1 sentence per day. No pressure, just 1 sentence. It took me a few weeks to find my momentum, but here's what my schedule looks like each week. Sometimes I manage to write out an entire page. Occasionally, I even find myself doing an entire script, functioning at 100% the entire day. Those days are rare though. Some days, I just feel so unmotivated, so I only do my bare minimum, 1 sentence per day. But even so, that's still showing up whether you feel like it or not. That is the key to discipline. So what is the bare minimum you can do each day? Aim for 1,000 steps, not 10,000. Aim to read 1 page, not 1 entire chapter. Write 1 sentence, not the entire script. Do that every single day. Don't miss a day. This is what true self-discipline is like. On the other hand, this is what 99% of people think discipline looks like. They think it's being amazingly productive every single day, functioning at 100%. But that's a lot of unnecessary pressure to put on yourself, which will make showing up even harder than it is. So don't aim for that. This is the essence of step 1. Even if you're feeling unmotivated and your brain is half asleep, just show up and get your bare minimum done. Do something. Anything. This is the key to building momentum. Now we move on to step 2. What do we do after we've already built momentum and we're working hard? The writer Joyce Carol Oates published her first book in 1964. By the 80s, she was up to 19 books. By the 90s, 27. In the first decade of the 2000s, she released 10 more books. In between, she released a ton of stuff as well. Now, even into her 80s, she's still working. Based on the stats that Ryan gave, Oates has published almost 150 books and other pieces of work in less than 60 years. I thought she was some kind of workaholic who worked like 20-hour days or something, but then I stumbled onto this. I have always lived a very conventional life of moderation, she explained. Absolutely regular hours, nothing exotic, no need even to organize my time. This is the essence of this book. So, of course, we all know that bumming around and sleeping in all day isn't self-discipline. But this isn't discipline either. If you've ever been burnt out in your life from working too hard, I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're not as disciplined as you thought you were. The essence of self-discipline is moderation in all things. It is the right amount of discipline, not too little, but also not too much at the same time. We do have to show up each day for sure, but resting when your body needs it the most, that is true discipline. True self-restraint. The truth behind the rut I told you about at the beginning of this video is because I was burnt out from trying to make it as a self-employed content creator. I wasn't disciplined in resting when my body needed it the most. And that is step 2. Discipline is moderation in everything. Ryan splits this book into 3 parts: the body, the mind, and the soul. The first 2 steps were about training the body. Physically show up each day, but also rest when your body needs it. However, we also need self-discipline of the mind, and with that, let's move to step 3. Joyce Carol Oates is one of the most prolific writers of her generation, but would this be admirable if she simply rushed her books out? Obviously not. I almost never publish immediately, she explained. Each one of her manuscripts after the completion of the first draft is placed in a drawer where it sits, sometimes for a year or more. This gives her enough time to get all the tiny decisions right. When I started my first ever YouTube channel, not the one that you're watching right now, but another one, growth was pretty pathetic for the first year. I think I made only a few bucks. If I didn't have the patience to see things through and I quit after my first year, which is what 99% of people do, I wouldn't have seen the later growth. My channel grew exponentially only in my third year, and this is a rough graph of what the income was like. You will see this sort of exponential graph no matter what business you start, what habit you form, what skill you try to pick up. As Ryan says, no matter what it is that we do, we will have to cultivate beyond hustle and hard work the discipline of patience. The waiting is the hardest part. And that's step 3, cultivate the discipline of patience to see things through over the long run. Now, step 4, you know that the road ahead of you is probably very, very long, maybe a few years long, so how do we make it fun along the way? Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback in history, isn't obsessed with winning. He's obsessed with improving the accuracy of his touchdown passes. He's obsessed with getting a little bit faster and releasing the football. He's not willing to stay the same. When you're self-disciplined, you strive for continuous improvement. This allows you to focus on your own personal progress, something which you have complete control of, instead of focusing on the results that you may not have complete control over. This is how you make the journey enjoyable along the way. After all, if you get just 1% better every day over the period of just 1 year, you'll be almost 38 times better than you were 1 year ago. Who wouldn't be happy with that, right? On the other hand, if you don't improve each day, you'll never change, and this honestly makes life very unfulfilling. And if you're wondering, yes, I stole this awesome 1% better math from Atomic Habits by James Clear. Here's what Ryan says: come what may, success or failure, a focus on progress lets us look ourselves in the mirror with pride. For this YouTube channel, you're watching each video took dozens of hours and hundreds of dollars to produce. And yet, I don't have the results to show for it. Some videos get as few as 10 views. But in the meantime, I'm trying not to focus on that. I'm focusing instead on my small, incremental improvements. My first video was an overexposed mess with terrible editing. The next few were not great either, but I slowly kept improving the edit, the structure, the scripting, and now even the visuals. And when I think about how far I've come, I do feel proud of myself despite the crappy views. That's step 4. If you have the self-discipline to continually improve, you will find contentment in your journey, even though it's gonna be one heck of a long one. In step 5, we now move on to what Ryan calls the soul. Cleanthes walked through the streets of Athens one morning and he came upon a man berating himself for some failure. Remember, he said kindly, you're not talking to a bad man. You may not realize this, but discipline means having the self-restraint not to beat yourself up. After my 4 weeks of being in a rut and after reading this book, I forced myself not to beat myself up, not to keep focusing on my mistakes. As I reflect on my recent journey of becoming a full-time self-employed content creator, I realized that I've made plenty of mistakes along the way. I focused on the wrong things, I blew 30 grand up in flames, I hired the wrong people, blowing even more money too. But some of these mistakes led to a few good decisions, and I was only able to make those good decisions because I wasn't busy beating myself up. Self-discipline doesn't mean much in the real world if it's not complemented by compassion, by kindness, by understanding, and by love. And that's step 5. Have the self-restraint not to beat yourself up. Show yourself some kindness. I'm going through a binge of all of Ryan Holiday's books, and I'll leave a compilation of them on the screen here when I'm done with all his Stoicism books. Hopefully it'll be out soon, and I'll see you in that one.